Hey guys, Comics here, and today I will be covering Uzumaki by the infamous Junji Ito, Chapter 4. Now, each of the chapter represents a certain kind of obsession, so let's see what this new chapter of obsession will tell us. Let's get into it. Kiri and her little brother are watching a funeral smoke spiral down into the town's pond, which is called Dragonfly Pond. Their mother comes up and tells them to stop watching and ask where their father is. Kiri answers that he has been in his pottery cottage for the entire night. The mom enters to find that the dad is staring into the kiln, astonished to witness something crazy going on. He prevents the mom from looking into the kiln and tells her to go back home. The family notices that the smoke from the father's kiln is also spiraling into the dragonfly pond, just like the funeral smoke. During a ceramics exhibition, Kiri's father showcased his new line of ceramics, but they are all warped into various spirals even though he intentionally created normal pots and plates. He likes how they turned out, but he can't figure out why exactly they've been turning out that way. He assumes it has something to do with the new clay he's been using, reacting to the fire. Someone asks what the clay is made from, and he keeps it a secret. Hee secret. He comes back home and is salty that no one bought any of his works, criticizing the public for not having an eye for art. The rest of the family mention it's probably because the pottery is impractical and they honestly look weird. Kiri wonders why the ceramics turned out that way and notices that one of the pieces has an image of a face. Ooh, run girl, that shit haunted. She takes a closer look at it and realizes it looks like Suichi's mom. The family is shocked at the resemblance as they find more faces of those who have died through the town's cremation. Each cremation created a spiral of smoke before falling into the dragonfly pond. They wonder why these faces keep coming up in the ceramics, and the dad mentions how ceramics are basically a work of nature, using clay and fire. He continues how even though it's made with human hands, nature eventually takes over. The next day, Kiri is making a lunchbox for Suichi since he hasn't been going to school. The mom mentions how they should have him over for dinner if he hasn't been eating well. She literally drags him out of his house because he is reluctant to go to her house. Not because of her or her family, but because she lives right next to the dragonfly pond. He says it is infected with spirals, but she brushes him off. During dinner, Suichi scarfs down his food until he notices that he is eating from a spiral plate. Kiri's dad thought he would appreciate it since his dad loved spirals and inspired him to create art. They ask where the clay was from, and he said he got it from Dragonfly Pond. Shook that he is eating off dead people's cremation, he runs off home. The mom thinks he is overreacting, but Kiri mentions how the clay is probably dead people clay. Her father continues to get clay from the pond and it's a monster. Oh, just kidding, it's her dad. He continues to work on his pottery and Kiri notices that they are just normal shapes. Her father mentions how they only turn that way after he puts them in the kiln. A week later, as the pottery is cooking in the kiln, Kiri checks up on her dad to see if he's doing okay since he hasn't been sleeping well. She goes into the cottage and finds him asleep and looks into the kiln to see these poor souls burning in fire. Oh my god. She can hear their groans and voices even from her room. She gets a call from Suichi, and while they are talking, Suichi also hears the screams from the kiln as one of the voices calls out his name. Kiri realizes that her dad has been protecting everyone from the horror of the screams by preventing them from looking into the kiln. Suddenly, Suichi shows up yelling how he can hear his parents calling out from the kiln. He breaks the kiln, thinking his parents are somehow in there. And he does release them, along with the souls from hell that all splurge out, burning down the entire cottage. Oh my god. Despite almost losing their lives, the father is still obsessed over finding the weird artwork the kin made. Now, what do you think this spiral obsession is about? I think this one is the toughest one because it's not as obvious to me, at least compared to the first three. It's about a workaholic obsessed with creating unique art. Now, originally he made practical stuff, but after seeing what the kiln made, he started getting obsessed, and I thought it was odd that he was so proud of it, even though he technically didn't make it that way. It's just happened to be that way after he put it in the fire. He was so obsessed with making amazing art that no one understood, even if it meant using clay made of dead people's ashes, and hearing their awful screams for 6 whole days, and having faces of dead people that he used to know on the ceramics, he still kept on going because he was just so excited to see what crazy things the kiln will make for him. He did mention before how even though you create things with your human hands in a certain way, nature will finally find a way to take over, which is partly true, but I'm not sure how that ties in to this obsession per se. But I think probably an obsession with what nature gives you. Even with the brush of death, the father isn't even fazed by all that his cottage burned down, but he still is obsessed with trying to find what ceramics the kiln made, even though he almost died along with Suichi. He is at least a little bit considerate towards his family because he is trying to prevent them from going into the cottage, looking into the kiln to see these poor souls just dying in fire, and hearing their screams for 6 straight days. I don't know how he was able to sleep right next to it, despite the suffering of all the poor souls in the fire, and basically suffering for his art. Kiri's dad continues to be obsessed with the kind of work that he will produce or not produce, because technically the kiln made it, even though, so it's not really his. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you not agree? Do you think the obsession is about something else? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe and like, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!